Hi everyone! Welcome to the first video in our online training course. Today we're going to talk about different types of landowners so we can get a sense of who we could be working with in the carbon market space. This video helps lay the groundwork for the course because we're going to illustrate how different landowners will need to be engaged differently. Today, I want to talk about family forest owners, our main audience in extension education. These are non-industrial landowners that include individual owners, families, or small LLCs. They often live on the land and manage it for a mix of reasons, such as privacy, recreation, timber harvesting, or hunting. Their decisions are deeply personal and can vary widely. Many are trying to balance stewardship with their financial goals, which makes the decisions they face more complex than they seem initially. Across the US, this group looks pretty similar. They're mostly older, around 60 years in age, and they're often men. They're often careful decision makers, especially when it comes to long-term commitments. However, many are curious about programs like carbon incentives. They're also cautious because they have other things to think about, like retirement plans, healthcare costs, or just wanting to keep their options open. Understanding that complexity is key to engaging them effectively. The data I'm going to show you now comes from the National Woodland Owners Survey covering 2018 to 2022. It's a bit dated, but you'll see some newer results coming out in the next year or so. And this will give us some helpful context. About 60% of family forest owners have less than 10 acres of forest. Right now, most carbon incentive programs require 30 to 50 acres to qualify. So these smaller landowners who make up the majority are typically not going to qualify. And the reason why is mainly due to the cost to the project developer. There's a lot of oversight and monitoring involved when it comes to managing carbon. So a lot of those project developers focus on larger properties to help make those programs financially viable. Land tenure is another key factor. Many landowners are older, so thinking 50 years ahead may be difficult. Even if they plan to pass the land to their kids, most don't want to pass on a long-term commitment, and they're focused on what they can manage on in their own lifetime. Carbon programs usually require 10, 20, 30-year commitments. So these programs really only work for landowners who see themselves building a legacy in the future. Since these are long-term commitments, we recommend that landowners really think about the trade-offs before entering a contract. For example, how would a change in management action, such as managing for carbon, affect their other expected benefits, such as their income, their time working on the forest, other things they may want to manage, such as wildlife habitat or their seclusion? It's difficult to make that assessment without having a plan already established. And as you can see, not many landowners have a plan. This is why we recommend that landowners develop some kind of management plan before approaching a carbon program, because without it, it'll be difficult to determine if entering a carbon program is a good option for them. Here's another interesting statistic. Many family forest owners don't use a professional forester when it comes to harvesting. However, a professional has to be involved at some point when you enroll in a carbon program. So if the landowner is not engaged with professionals before, this is another thing that has to be overcome in order to participate. It's also important to understand what motivates landowners to get involved right now. So views on climate change are somewhat mixed, as you see here. Some are very concerned about climate change and others not at all. We don't know yet how much that influences participation, but we're actively researching the link between climate beliefs and willingness to enroll. However, early conversations suggest that even those skeptical about climate change may still be interested, mainly because of the potential for added income. So education about these issues, it can help, and even if climate change is not the main driver for many landowners. And then finally, here's your golden ticket for doing education in this space. Very few landowners are familiar with carbon sequestration programs, so there's obviously a large need for education. Once again, with the end goal of empowering landowners to make decisions for themselves and what's a good fit for the land is the whole point of doing this work. Okay, so to wrap up, here are a few key barriers that landowners face, and then what extension can do to help them. First, the barriers, many don't meet that acreage minimum. Also, land tenure matters, and some aren't sure they'll own that land long enough to commit. Without a management plan, it's hard for them to know if these programs will actually benefit them financially or otherwise. And trust is also a hurdle. It takes time for landowners to find professionals they feel comfortable working with. Finally, attitudes towards climate change could influence engagement, but they're not the only factor. So how can we in Extension help with this? Well, we need to go beyond just helping landowners sign up for a program. We can also help with legacy planning and thinking about long-term goals and their management objectives and how their land fits into their family's future. We can also provide foundational knowledge about forest management, which is essential whether or not someone enrolls in a carbon program. Understanding how climate change impacts forests and how carbon markets work is key to supporting landowners. There are so many points along the way where Extension can support better decision-making, not just about carbon markets, but about forest ownership more broadly. So here are some reflection questions for you based on today's video. We suggest you identify which landowners you plan to work with. What are their needs and what are the conditions of their forest? What programs are available to them? Well, that's all we have for you today. Thank you for joining us. If you are watching on YouTube, we encourage you to check out our free online educator course. If you are taking the course, make sure to complete the comprehension check and evaluation survey if you want to receive credits. And we'll see you in the next video.